Hello. We are going over the 324 biblical prophecies that prove Jesus is the Messiah. You are watching this on the Halachgoy channel of YouTube. I'm a Halachgoy, and you can be one too. 324 biblical prophecies that prove Jesus is the Messiah. Prophecy number 23. Not a bone of the lamb to be broken. This prophecy is found in the book of Exodus, chapter 12, verse 46. It must be eaten inside one house. Take none of the meat outside of the house. Do not break any of the bones. The fulfillment of this prophecy is found in the Gospel of John, chapter 19, verses 31 to 36. Now it was the day of preparation, and the next day was to be a special Sabbath, because the Jews did not want the bodies left on the crosses during the Sabbath. They asked Pilate to have the legs broken and the bodies taken down. The soldiers therefore came and broke the leg of the first man who had been crucified with Jesus, and then those of the other. But when they came to Jesus and found that he was already dead, they did not break his legs. Instead, one of the soldiers pierced Jesus' side with a spear, bringing a sudden flow of blood and water. The man who saw it has given testimony, and his testimony is true. He knows that he tells the truth, and he testifies so that you may believe. These things happened so the scriptures would be fulfilled. Not one of his bones will be broken. So Jesus made it through his life without his bones being broken. I've had a broken bone. A lot of people I know have had broken bones. Jesus did not have a broken bone. And even though the people that were crucified with Jesus had their bones broken, Jesus did not have his bones broken. According to the Apostle John, this is in fulfillment of the prophecy in Exodus chapter 12, verse 46. It must be eaten inside of one house. Take none of the meat outside the house. Do not break any of the bones. Does this fulfill the requirements for the Passover according to the book of Exodus? Read it again with me. It must be eaten inside of one house. Take none of the meat outside of the house. Each house was to have its own Passover lamb. The Passover lamb for one house was not to be taken to another house. Each house was to have its own sacrifice, and each year when this is commemorated, each house is to have its own sacrifice. You are not to break the lamb apart, have part of a lamb in one house and the other part of the lamb in another house. This is for a couple different reasons. One reason is it's considered uncouth to rip the lamb apart. They wanted it to be done in a proper, orderly manner. The Passover was to be done in a dignified manner, and that excluded the idea of ripping the lamb apart and sharing it with different households. Each house is to have its own lamb. Of course, we're told that Jesus was one lamb for all times. That would be in contradiction to the instructions given in the book of Exodus concerning the Passover. That is one of the main meanings, or that's the most literal meaning for do not break any of the bones. It's right there in the verse. The exclamation is right there in the verse, and I have no idea what that has to do with the crucifixion account given by the Apostle John. Apparently John thought it was very significant. He went to a lot of exclamation, and he went through a lot of giving personal oath, which is pretty strong for the Apostle Paul to say that he was giving the testimony because he saw it himself, and he's giving this testimony. The testimony is true, and we're to believe the testimony that Jesus did not have his legs broken. And I see no reason to argue with the Apostle John about whether or not Jesus' legs were broken, but I'm going to say that it has nothing to do with the instructions given for the Passover lamb. In fact, it's the exact opposite. The next one will be out of Exodus chapter 15, verse 2. His exaltation predicted as Yeshua. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you next time.